Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Pat Young. I'm the Director of Blair County Veterans Affairs. I'm also a retired 31-year military officer. Could we please, prior to us getting started, could we please start with the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, folks. Everybody can have a seat, please. Once again, I'd like to welcome everybody to the 2019 Vietnam Veterans Pinning Ceremony Press Conference. I want to thank you all for coming. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Congressman Joyce. His office and my office are going to work vehemently for all the veterans, but mainly a lot of the Vietnam veterans who are, at this time, nearing the end of maybe their lives or whatever, or they're starting to rethink some things. And there are plenty of veterans in this county. We have over 13,000 veterans in this county, which is a lot of veterans, and it's our jobs to serve them, and I believe this award ceremony will be an outstanding venue. So with that being said, I want to introduce Representative John Joyce.
First of all, thank you all for being here today. It is so important that what Pat Young brought to the table is reiterated and affirmed. And I'll tell you, as your congressman, we've taken this commitment to serving our veterans seriously, and we won't back away from that. We've been advocates from day one. We've sponsored legislation that will protect veterans, allow them to have more access to health care. This acknowledgement of our veterans has been the brainchild, specifically of the Vietnam veterans, has been the brainchild of our 80th representative, my representative, Jim Gregory. Allow me to just talk briefly how important Jim Gregory's commitment to our veterans is. Jim Gregory, from day one, has been so committed to serving the veterans in our community. You see him at outreaches, working for better health care, better services, and better access to the needs of the veterans in Blair County. We have a representative who understands that we wouldn't have our freedoms, that we wouldn't have the lives that we cherish every day without the veterans who have committed to making our lives better by their service to the United States military. I'm the son of a veteran from World War II. I'm actually the spouse of a veteran from the United States Navy. I realize that personally, and I acknowledge our representative, Jim Gregory, for making that commitment and bringing us all together today to continue that work for our United States veterans. Proudly, I introduce to you Representative from the 80th District of Pennsylvania, Mr. Jim Gregory.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. It's tough to get up after hearing comments like that from the congressman, and I am so eternally grateful for the relationship that my congressman and I have been able to forge since the very beginnings of the genesis of our campaigns, when we started to entertain the idea of what it would be like to run for office in this area. And certainly what we talked about was how can we serve veterans in our area, and what can we do to better improve the lives of the military in our community. And today is one of those opportunities. This is about relationships. And I'd like to start, when you talk about relationships, first of all, with my congressman, but also with our fellow legislators who are going to be part of this celebration. Senator Judy Ward, who could not be here today, and also Representative Lou Schmidt. He is in Harrisburg today and could not be here, but this is a county-wide effort to recognize the Vietnam veteran period of veterans, the opportunity to be able to celebrate what they meant, and that we can recognize their contributions. When it comes to relationships, we have a great team here in Blair County about putting things and people first. And we're putting our veterans first by doing this. And when I say about relationships, I'd just like to recognize the men who are here today. Would our veterans who are in the room, would you please stand and be recognized, please? Thank you. And I do that because to make this happen, to make this as successful as we would like to make it, and I think it's going to be a huge success, is that we are going to bring resources to bear that include our VFWs, that include our American Legions, to get the word out there. And I specifically also like to thank the media that is here today, because when we work together, we can put together an amazing opportunity to recognize great individuals who gave their lives for the freedoms that we enjoy today. So with that in mind, I want to continue the relationship conversation. In the House of Representatives, we are given an opportunity to do outreach events every month. We've done things like shredding events, very successful. We've done open houses, all kinds of great things that we are given an opportunity to do. But last spring, we thought about what would we like to do in November. We'd like to do a veterans event. And a couple of months ago, we thought, well, if we're going to do a veterans event, let's go big. Let's start big, and let's see where it goes. And when you have relationships that you've been able to foster over many years, it gives you an opportunity to reach back to those folks and make a request. And I was able to make that request, and that request has been answered. And that relationship I'm talking about is with the gentleman I'm going to introduce next. Rocco Scalzi has been a friend for decades. We've been able to work together on events for so many different veterans opportunities, for children, for youth, for education. The Beating the Odds Foundation is a well-known organization in Blair County because of the relationships that Rocco Scalzi has been able to foster over many, many years. And so we reached out to him to take advantage of one last relationship. And he's going to talk to you about that today. Because this is what will make, in my opinion, this ceremony just maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit more special for those who are going to attend. Before I do so, I just have to say this. I really have to applaud my staff for putting this together. I got to tell you, I am so proud of my staff to put this together, to see the turnout that we have here today. Hats off to my staff in the back, Deb and Joe. Thank you very much. But also the staffs of the congressman and senator and representative. Congressman, you have a staff that is going to make you proud with this event. I honor them for what they've been able to do so far that make us look so good. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring up Rocco Scalzi.
Good morning, everyone. When Jim called me and asked me for a favor, he didn't tell me I had to speak, but I'm happy to speak. I'm happy to talk about, for a few minutes, what this pin means. Where's that? There it is. For all the veterans, to serve. There's a little bit of confusion. A lot of people ask me, well, do you have to have been in Vietnam to receive this pin? And my good friend, Rocky Blyer, who we'll be talking about in a minute, said, no. All you had to do was serve during that era, during the Vietnam era. Myself, I enlisted into the United States Navy right out of high school here in Altoona. I'm sorry, we're in Hollidaysburg. In Altoona, though. And 1972, Vietnam War was still going on. I was on a destroyer. We headed to Vietnam. We were a day outside of Vietnam when the crisis exploded in the Middle East between Israel and Egypt, and we were sent to the Middle East, and we sat there for 6 months. So personally, I was never in country in Vietnam, one day away. But this pin is to recognize all veterans who either was drafted, enlisted, served during that era, ready. My brother was a Navy corpsman during the Vietnam War. He served in Maryland in the hospital where veterans came, that were missing limbs or wounded, and that was his service to the country. So again, this pin is very important to all veterans. Do we have any World War II veterans in here? No World War II vets? Okay, close. Because I was introduced, and I think they said your age was around 87? 85. Okay, you look great. My father was World War II. He was one of the young ones. He'd be 93, 94 today. So again, to all veterans, this is a great opportunity. Jim asked me if I could bring somebody special in to present these pins to the veterans and to speak on behalf of the ceremony, Rocky Blyer. And Rocky and I go way back. 30 years ago, we started working together through the foundation. Rocky became chairman of the Beating the Odds Foundation in Pittsburgh. We kicked off the foundation with 15,000 students and veterans. So every time Rocky and I got together over those 30 years, we put on events. We brought the Golden Knights in to jump onto the fields. We even did that in Altoona at the Curve for the students. We worked with POWs. We worked with Medal of Honor recipients. So having worked with Rocky over all these years, I know when you go to Rocky with a request to do something for veterans, he's there. So Rocky is going to be coming in to be the keynote speaker. And Jim, you asked me if Rocky could have a quote for the event. So I got Rocky to give us a quick quote here. Rocky says, "I had the opportunity to be part of the commission nationally to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. The pinning ceremony is really the first time that our government has been able to thank and honor specifically Vietnam veterans for their contributions and sacrifices made during the Vietnam War. It is also to recognize the sacrifices made by their families and friends. It is a lasting memento of a grateful nation. I am honored to be the keynote speaker for the ceremony in Altoona on November the 8th, 2019. Signed, Rocky Blyer." Okay, so thank you for your service, and look forward to seeing everybody at the event. Thank you.
Once again, hi, I'm Patrick Young. I'm the Director of Veterans Affairs, and I'm going to introduce a Vietnam veteran here in a few minutes. But I wanted to piggyback off of what Rocco had said. It's a shame it's taken this country 50 years to recognize the Vietnam veterans. I, as a combat veteran of Iraq, came back, and people weren't doing the things that they were doing to the Vietnam vets. And for that, I can just tell you that I'm sorry, even though I wasn't part of it, but it's a shame to see how you guys were treated, but it's also good to see that we have moved on, and we are treating our veterans coming home a lot better. With that being said, I'm going to introduce a veteran who I've known for about 22 years or so. I was asked to give a veteran's name, and I thought, you know what, I can't think of a better person to represent the Vietnam War era than my father-in-law, Dan Martelacki.
Howdy. First place, I want to say I'm not only proud to be a Vietnam veteran, but I'm also proud to speak for a lot of you guys, and honored. And I'm a little humble because I was drafted and I didn't join, but I gave 110%, and I spent a year over there as a door gunner on a helicopter. And I had a lot of great memories with friends and a lot of bad memories. But I mostly want to tell the vets that maybe haven't been touched with this, but I reached out to the VA not till I was 70 years old because I was too proud to think that I didn't need any help, that there was many more that needed things before me. But reach out to the VA. They can help you a lot, both mentally with medicine and just to talk to other vets, but we've come a long way since coming home. I was there in 67 and 68, and when I came home, I actually was a little bit, my parents told me, don't even tell anybody you were there, and I was confused because our world was going through a funny time there, our country rather, and as the years went by, I was always just felt like I was doing what I had to do to help my fellow soldiers and my country, but you always felt like we shouldn't have been there. But I needed to be there to help my friends, my comrades. Anyways, we've come a long way, and it feels good to come home now and wear a Vietnam hat and my license plate, and I'm proud to have been there and done what I did. And I'm sure all you are too. But it does make us feel better to bump into people and they say, welcome home and thank you for your service. And I catch myself seeing other Vietnam veterans and I always say, hey, welcome home. and they look at me and they know what I'm talking about. But I was one of the lucky ones, like I said, to come home, and a lot of us didn't, and a lot of us left limbs over there, and part of our mind, and part of our soul over there, and it's hard. It's hard to just leave it all behind. But I was lucky I have family to come back to, and I'm sure you all did too. But I just want to end this in saying I feel honored to have served and to have represented Vietnam veterans today. I hope I speak for most of us, but thank you.
At this time, first of all, Pat, great job. If anybody has any questions, we can do some question and answer aside. We can do it with cameras, or we can do some one-on-ones if you'd like to do that. But Congressman Joyce, I know how busy you are. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Rocco, thank you so much. We're going to put on a great event, and this is just the start of it. And so thank you to everyone for being here today. All right?
Sure.
Good? John, yes, sir.
Yes, you didn't say where we're going to be doing this. Where and when?
So, yes, we mentioned the date, November 8th. It'll be at the Jaffa Mosque. And we picked the Jaffa Mosque for a good reason, that we believe that of the thousands who are eligible for this award, that we were going to need a big venue. And we've used that venue in the past for ceremonies recognizing veterans. And we just feel like it's the perfect opportunity.
Is it just Blair County?
It is for Blair County, yes.
Be a resident of Blair County?
Yes.
And do you need to sign up? Like, do you need to call your office and say, I want a pin? Do you register ahead of time?
Yes, yes. In the press packets that you have, you should see that information. It should spell it out, because we want to make sure we get everything correct right out of the gate, because it's very important that you know who to contact and how to make contact with regards to the forms that would need to be filled out, and some of the requirements that we need to be able to do this according to the federal requests. Take a look at it. If you have any other questions, we can answer those. Yes, Rocco, go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank John. You're getting younger every time I see you. That's why I didn't recognize you until just now. So thank you for your service. And John's always been involved with events that Rocky came in for. And if anybody saw the Rocky documentary a few weeks ago, if you didn't get a chance to see it, go to ESPN. I think you can still get online and see it and watch his going back to Vietnam,
Right.
50 years later when he was wounded. So again, Rocky will be here to do the official pinning with the congressman, with you and your counterparts, and then Rocky will be speaking
Right.
at the event.
Right. And so it'll be in the morning, doors open at noon, and it'll be a fairly extensive ceremony. And I would echo what Rocco was just saying. I don't know if you would be surprised by this. I'm kind of a big fan of ESPN. I have a sports background. So to be able to watch the documentary that Tom Rinaldi, a award-winning reporter, sports journalist for ESPN did, they took Rocky back to the field where he was injured in Vietnam. Now, Rocky is 72 years old. It is a strenuous, arduous travel itinerary that he had to go through. And he never really wanted to go back, and he talks about that in the documentary. But it brings back, for many people who did not know that Rocky was something more than a Super Bowl champion, that he was severely injured in Vietnam, to take himself back there to visit the field, to think about the friends, and he talks about the friends that he lost on that battlefield and what he did himself to try and save his fellow soldiers, and then end up losing part of his foot, shrapnel in his leg, and then to come back and play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, let alone play, and then win 4 Super Bowls. For a lot of people, it brings back the Rocky Bleier name as something more than a Super Bowl champion, that before that he was something much bigger, and that is that he was a Vietnam War hero. absolutely.
I just want to echo what our representative Jim Gregory has said. I grew up here. I'm a big Steelers fan. Rocky Bleier is clearly one of my personal heroes, but you are our heroes as well. And when Representative Gregory and I had this conversation, the purpose of bringing Rocky Bleier here by using Pat Young and Rocco Scalzi and Representative Gregory to bring this all together is to shine the light on the fact that, yeah, he's my hero as a Pittsburgh Steeler, but you are our heroes. This is our opportunity from a federal, from a state level to acknowledge how important what you have done. This is a shining a light through the contacts of Rocco Scalzi, but shining a light on the heroes that live and walk among us every day. It's awesome to have Rocky Bleier come here and acknowledge what a success story that is. But it's even more important that we acknowledge what you have done for us and how you have gone on to make our lives better.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, John.
Jim.
John, have you ever thought about being a journalist?
To get off this subject here, I
Yes,
want
sir.
to go to something else.
Sure.
And that is, speaking of paralyzed veterans.
Yes.
The state has gives each veteran every month $150 for their service.
Mm-hmm.
And I had asked Judy Ward
Mhm.
before to help change that and just get an increase of maybe $50
Mhm.
instead of 150. You know, I don't think I'm asking way out
Absolutely.
how much they should be getting.
Mm-hmm.
Paralyzed veterans, I believe, should be getting a raise. They've gotten that same amount of money forever.
Mm.
So it's about time that they get on.
Thanks for bringing that to my attention. I appreciate that very much, and I'm sure that Senator Ward and I will have a conversation about where do we take that moving forward, and the opportunity to touch base with those on the Committee for Veterans Affairs in the State House and the State Senate. Thank you very much for being here to bring that to my attention. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Pat, you aware of that one too?
Yes, I'm aware.
Yes. There you go. Yes, Mr. Pat.
You know, when us Korean veterans came back, we got a bonus from the state
Mm-hmm.
for our service in Korea.
Mm.
So I don't know if the Vietnam veterans got anything or not.
Yes, yes, we did.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's $200 or $300, I think it was.
Huh?
It was, yeah, it was a certain amount per month that you served.
Yeah.
I think I ended up getting like $750.
Yeah, I got 675.
Yes, sir. Yes, Steve.
I received $300 as well and attended a Penn State University, but it could have been Pitt or Temple.
Oh, yes,
And
the
the
GI.
governor, I believe, Shap at the time, paid the tuition or provided a $600 per semester stipend towards that, which finished my education through the GI Bill.
The GI Bill might be one of the best things this nation has ever done.
Yes.
Echo that thought.
Yeah. Any questions, media? Thank you all for being here and getting the word out there for us. We can't do it without you, and we're very appreciative and grateful for you taking the time to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, very good.